Hey guys, welcome to SilvaCast. Welcome to one more episode. I'm Fred Silva, and this is a podcast made by an English learner to other English learners to help you, that's it, you, to speak a better English, to speak English with confidence, with no more fear and with no more hesitation. This is episode number 10, so I'm so excited about it because, we just started in the beginning of the year, and right now we have 10 episodes, and this is amazing. And today the conversation is going to be amazing. I think you will love it. But before, if you are not subscribed to the channel yet, please click the button below, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up, and help us to grow this channel and show to more people that yes, you can speak English with confidence. We can speak English once and for all. And in today's conversation, I will talk with Kris. Kris is an English teacher from the KrisAmerikos.com. He is also an entrepreneur. He is also a learner of languages. So I think you will love this conversation today. We'll talk about native-speakerism, about fluency, about confidence, about a lot of things. So stay prepared and stay with us until the end because you will love this conversation. I think it will help you to improve your English so much. And by the way, if you see something pop on a screen, it's a new expression, a new vocabulary word that you can learn and use in your daily conversations and in your daily life, okay? So let's get started. I am so excited about it and see you in a minute. Guys, as I promised, today I have a special guest. You will love this conversation. This guy is amazing. He is a great teacher. I'm sure you will love this conversation. Kris, welcome to SilvaCast. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Well, first of all, Kris, please introduce yourself for our audience, who you are, where you live, and what do you do?
Yeah, thanks a lot again for having me here. It's kind of hard to say what I do because every day is kind of a little different, but a lot of people know me as an English teacher. Although what I do day to day, you probably wouldn't call that being an English teacher. So really what I do is I help people grow online businesses. And so usually that means that I go into their business as a chief growth officer with my team, and we find ways to increase revenue and increase profitability, and also for the business owner to find ways to remove themselves from the business to save them time. So I spend a lot of time doing that stuff, and that applies to what I do in my own businesses. And so my background was teaching English, and that's what led me into online marketing and online businesses. And so I'm really happy about that and really appreciative to the big audience that we've built around that. But on the day to day, I really I'm an English teacher at heart,
Got it. So I can see that you are an entrepreneur, English teacher, business owner, all of things together. And it's curious, God, I didn't know about this. The first time I saw you on YouTube, it was in a video ad speaking about English. And I think it was, I don't know, 1 year, 2 years ago. I can't remember. But I didn't know that you have this type of job. And it's really interesting. We can talk more about this during the conversation. I love it.
Yeah. And a lot of that's the thing, is that a lot of people have a big audience somewhere, but how did they get that audience, and what else happened, and what's that audience worth? Not every audience is the same. And so, you found me through an ad, and I think most of the people who are in my audience found me through ads. And that's because we had a great product. And when you have a great product, you can throw money into ads. You can put your face everywhere. People know who you are. And it's just an added benefit of being able to direct that money towards something that's profitable, and so just along the way you're just getting this fringe benefit, this side benefit. But the size of the audience, it's like a vanity metric in marketing. We call it, it's a number that doesn't mean anything. Because, for example, on another channel that we have about business, we can make 10, 20, 30 times more money with an audience that is like 5,000 people instead of an audience of like 350,000 people where you make a lot less money. And so not every audience is the same.
Got it. We are on the same page because my background is marketing as well. I'm let's call a digital launch specialist. I work with internet marketing, and I launch English teachers, entrepreneurs. Like I help them to grow their business on the internet too. So it's kind of similar. Yeah, I'm curious to know more about this. I think it's really cool because I love marketing. I love, helping people to grow in business, to grow in English and this type of thing. So it's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap, a lot of commonality.
Yeah. Speaking about English, Kris, why did you decide to become an English teacher? Because I know that nobody born as an English teacher. You became an English teacher in some point of your life. So why did you decide to become an English teacher?
This is a good question. I don't think anyone's asked that before. Of course, when I was becoming an English teacher, lots of people were saying, why would anyone want to do that? But so I've been a language lover from a young age. I just always had an affinity towards learning new languages and trying to communicate with people in a creative way, I guess. And that made becoming an English teacher really easy. So, when you've already studied a lot of other languages, learning the rules of English and then teaching that to someone else, it becomes easier, because if you just know one language and you've never studied anything else, and then you try to teach English, there's a lot of new stuff you have to learn that applies to all languages. So, some level of beginner linguistics, let's call it, right? So this helps before teaching English as a foreign language. And so I had that background. So I went to Russia after I finished a master's degree in international relations in the United States. I went to Russia for 3 months just to be to take a break. In England or in the UK, they say take a gap year, right? A gap year, like a year off. And but I finished my bachelor's degree and master's degree together in 4 years. And so I was like, before I go into the real world and have to get a real job, I'm going to go to Russia for 3 months. And so I went, and I really wanted, it was like a big challenge and everything was hard, and I really wanted to stay longer. So the only job I could get, not speaking, because I went there knowing no Russian at all. And so the only job I could really find was teach English. So, okay. It was a point of survival, at that point.
I know. At that time when you were in Russia, it was when you start your YouTube channel, because I saw one of your videos, the video that I told you about, the ad in the background, it was like an old city. I know it was not in America. It was in Russia.
Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
And you spoke about another language. Do you speak another language? Which language do you speak?
So I speak Russian. I lived in Russia for 8 years. And from the first year that I was there, I started dating a girl. Now we're married and we have a kid. And so I hear Russian all the time. So now living in the States, I speak Russian less, but like I still speak Russian. But when I was younger, I lived in Italy for 2 years, and I could speak some Italian then, but I've forgotten everything. And I'm learning Spanish right now. This is my language that I'm studying now. So
how learning languages help you to become a better English teacher? Because I know that when you are studying another languages, that influence your teaching. So how?
yeah. Well, Fred, where are you located?
I'm in Brazil.
In
I'm from
Brazil.
Brazil. Yeah.
Okay. Silva, I thought it was kind of obvious, but I still wanted to ask.
Yeah. It's pretty common, this last name here. I'm sure it's the most common last name in Brazil.
It's something like Smith in English or something.
Exactly. Same thing.
Cool. So yeah, learning other languages absolutely helps you be and become a better English teacher, because learning other languages highlights aspects of language use that you might not notice just by speaking one language yourself. Like on a very basic level, even some simple concepts, like for example, in Russian, there's two different types of blue, but in English, there's only one blue. I mean, like then there's light blue and dark blue, but in Russian, these have special names. They're like completely considered separate colors. And then of course with colors, you can always say, oh, well, we have lots of different words for different colors. So like we have the words, it's just that people say blue about all of these things. So that, but like getting into the like mindset of how someone views language and how it works, right? So like in this case, a Russian speaker who's speaking English with someone might be more likely to correct someone who says that shirt is blue, and they might say, no, it's light blue. But they probably won't say that if they say, oh, that shirt is red. No, it's light red. Right. So you know what I mean? Like, so like they're more likely to comment on this thing because in their language, it works that way. And so you can see it in, you know, I mean, it's a generalization of what in linguistics they call an L1 error, like a first language error, carrying something over from the first language, right?
Oh God,
So
it's like something that you have in your own language, and you try to apply in the other language, but it's not that way. It's different, something like that, right?
exactly. It's interesting watching my daughter learning English and because her mom speaks Russian to her all day, and I speak English to her all day, and so sometimes she'll mix things, and so she tried to add the English plural s to Russian words.
Like in Portuguese, sometimes we do that too, because in English sometimes we don't have the plural of a few words, but in Portuguese we have. So Brazilians try to do that. And other thing is, when we are trying to speak in English, some words we change the pronunciation, because in Portuguese it's kind of that. For example, Facebook, in Portuguese we say Facebook with like in the and it's kind of cute. People think it's cute, but when people say that, I know it's a Brazilian, because nobody else do that in English. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So exactly. And this is why I think it's important. I think it's important to learn a new language, because as an English teacher, your job is to be a master of this language. And in order to master this language, you need to understand how it compares to other languages. And you have a major advantage as a teacher if you also know your students' L1, their first language. So
yeah.
like
One thing that I want to
sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, one thing that I want to add it to this is, when you you are an English teacher, but for example, you never try to learn another language. You don't know the issues that students can face because you are not a learner of a language. But when you are, learning a new language, you know exactly the same challenge they have, and you understand the students better. I think I have speaking with a lot of teachers in this podcast, and every one of them say the same thing. When I start to learn Korean, my teaching became better. When I start to learn Spanish, my teaching became better because I know exactly what my students face on a daily basis. So this, I think, help every teacher should speak another language because it's part of the process to become a better teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first went to Russia, I told people in the States, "Oh, I went to Russia and learned English." I was like, I went to Russia and I learned English. That's because the standard, the level that they held English teachers to was much higher than native speaking guy off the street,
Got it.
And so I always felt like in the beginning, I always felt this pressure that like they have gone to university and studied this and they've, they really know the details of what they're talking about. And here I am just nobody and just starting out and I didn't know any of that. So that was a real push for me to try to be competition really helped push me to be a better English teacher. Definitely.
Yeah. And at that time, you need to level up your teaching skills because they are expecting because you are native, right?
Right. Right. And I don't want to be telling people the wrong stuff.
Where are you located in the US, so Kris?
In Florida, Tampa.
Florida. Oh, Tampa. Mm-hmm. Good place, good place.
I like it.
Kris, I never been in America before. I hope one day I can visit there, but I know just, I search a lot about the United States because it's part of my job. I have clients there. I need to understand a lot of things about it. So this is it's part of my learning too. Let me ask this question, Kris. What is the English fluency for you? What that means for you, fluency, to be fluent in English? And I know students ask this about fluency all the time. They want to be fluent and everything. So what is your thinking? What is your thought about this, about fluency?
So to me, fluency is like, you can of course go into details about how you can measure it. If we're talking about measuring fluency and exams, tests, and those things, that's one discussion. The philosophical concept of what is fluency, I think that's the discussion I would rather have. So what is fluency? I think that fluency relates back to flow. It's about flow. Fluency, like influx, flux, and this from Latin. And this is like about flow. And so flow, constant change. So it's about being able to own the language, master the language. The language is in your domination. You can use the language, being able to use the language in a variety of situations that an average person could navigate, and being able to go with the flow. So that's why a lot of times a person who doesn't know a language but just can understand body language very well, if they just don't speak, it can be a long time that a person doesn't know that they're not a native because they didn't hear any accent, they didn't have any opportunity for that. So you don't have to be, there's not a magical amount of words that make you fluent, because fluency is where language and behavior overlap,
Oh,
where they connect.
it's a great concept. Yeah.
Right?
I never heard this concept before, like as you mentioned, and I like it. I think is exactly like that. When the language overlap, the I forgot the word.
Behavior.
Behavior. Interesting. Interesting.
Because
I
language
I
is a
I
behavior, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
every
Because it's
word
the
is
way that you communicate, right?
the way that you communicate. Mm-hmm.
Good, good. And I think you have been teaching for a while. And why, we have a lot of English teachers on the internet. We have YouTube videos. We have a lot of English institutes, English schools, and everything. But still, I see a lot of people saying, I don't speak English. I can't speak English. English is so hard. English is so difficult to learn. Why do you think that so many people still can't speak English, even we have a lot of resources on the internet and everywhere?
There's a lot of reasons that might be true here. It just reminded me of a conversation with a guy, pessimist. He was like, I found 10 reasons why this won't work for me. And I said, you're doing too much work. You only needed to find one reason that it won't work to make it not work. And you found 10 of them. You only needed one and it won't work. Like you can always find the reason that it won't work. I think that a lot of people have different situations in their lives and they can't put enough focus into it. Maybe they don't have enough motivation. I mean, let's be realistic. There's paid resources, free resources. There's so many free resources for English that it's pretty hard.
Could be overwhelming, right?
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. And I think you've probably studied other languages too, right? Other than English or Portuguese?
Yeah, I speak Spanish too.
Okay.
It is my second language.
So so English is third?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so yeah, you can see how like speaking another language will improve your job. It will improve your opportunity. You'll just have so many more opportunities, and it's just another box to check now in today's world to be like, oh, by the way, I do this thing that qualifies me for better jobs, basically, right?
Yeah, for me, it's good to to have opportunities and also to feel better, because when I just start to learn Spanish and I noticed that in 2 months I was speaking Spanish like with natives without any problem, very, very well, in a comfortable way, I felt very, very happy, because I noticed that I did something very, very big, something very important. So I felt like it's like my self-esteem start to grow, because I'm a shy guy. Since I was a kid, I didn't speak so much because I was so shy. And learning languages helped me to to improve this aspect. So right now I can speak with everybody in English, Spanish, Portuguese. I can walk to any room without any problem, because languages helped me to improve my self-esteem, and became my life became very, very, so much better, because I improved my business because of languages. I improved my relation with my son because of language and everything. So I think learning languages can go beyond the to improve our life in just one aspect, like professional aspects, because it helps us in other aspects as well, as I mentioned. So I think everyone needs to try another language, English, Spanish, whatever they are interested in, because it will help them to improve other aspects of their lives. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes I tell people there's only two things that you need to be happy in life. You need to always be learning something new, which is improving yourself. And you need to always be teaching something to someone else, which is improving others. And if you do those two things, then you'll be happy because you're not worried about the negative things in your life. You're worried about how can I teach someone or how can I help myself improve.
Helping, I think, is one of the things that make me happy, because when I just start to learn English and I notice that I can speak, I can improve my capacities, because I am speaking another language. But when I notice that when I encourage other people, when I try to help other people, I feel very, very happy, because I can see that one thing that I did make a great impact in someone else's life. And this is the reason I decided to start this podcast, because I noticed that when I encourage people, people start to improve, because they get motivated, they get very excited. I'm not an English teacher, and I don't think I want to be, but I know that I can help other people in some aspect. I can help them to improve their English, because I'm I'm a person that, I kind of find my why in life. I have my business, I have everything, but this part of my life, helping people with English, I can do for free, because I totally I love it. So I think this is one of the things that make me more happy, is helping people. It's see how much impact I can do in someone else's lives.
Mm-hmm. That's great, man. I'm glad that you found that. A lot of people look for that. Not everybody finds it.
Yeah. I saw on your YouTube channel, and I think it's really interesting, your statement. I want to talk a little bit about it. You said level up and show the world the best version of yourself. That totally matches what I believe. So can you talk a little bit about this statement? I saw every single video you say the same thing, and it caught my attention.
Sure. Language learners are focused on going to the next level. And this kind of ties in with your previous question, which I feel like I left part of it unanswered. Why do people fail at learning the language? Why do they stop learning? And this ties in with the level thing. So I think it's about the learning curve. And is it okay if I share my screen real quick?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the learning curve. So like a lot of people expect that learning is going to happen like this. And that's not how it works.
Me include, in the past.
Like, okay, I learned a new word and that means I made new progress. And then I learned a new word and I made new progress. I learned a new word, I made new progress. And everything is just like building up and building up. And at some point you reach fluency or something like this. So, but the learning curve really is like you learn a little bit, you forget. You learn a little bit more, you forget. You learn a little bit more, you forget. So it's more like this. And so every time it goes down, people freak out and they're like,
Exactly.
I'm forgetting. I don't know anything anymore. And they take some kind of long break and forget some words. Okay. And then they start studying again, intensive program, right? So it's more like this or something like this. And so every time they come to this to this point or this point, they freak out. It's not working. I forget words. I made a mistake. I made a mistake.
Oh,
Like,
this is,
you're always going to make a mistake. It's a language. And so some of those things, like the like explaining what a language is and how it works to the students, I feel like that really helps with success rate of the teacher. If the teacher can, and again, this is not really about being an English teacher. This is more about just coaching, or it's more about, just how languages work in general. So tying in those aspects of simple linguistics, and because not everybody sees that,
yeah, that is something very interesting about your drawing that you did right now. It's not a line from the bottom to the top. It's like more like this, as you mentioned, but it still is going to the bottom to the top.
Yeah.
Even it's like up and down. It's going to the top at the same time. And this kind of how can I say, of pattern, it's important because you learn, you forget, you learn, you forget. And the most important thing is don't let this forgetting thing, because it's part of the learning process, affect your motivation. Because every time when you are going down, you think about give up. I can see that because it happened to me just in the beginning of my English learning journey. 3 months after I start to study, I thought, this is not for me. I will just forget about it, never study English again, because I can't see any result. I start very good. I'm talking now, but it's kind of, I hit the ceiling, and I don't see any progress anymore. And I thought to give up at that time. So, but I didn't. And then I start to notice, okay, it's part of the process. My English learning curve, it's more different. It's not like I was expecting. So it was a shock for me, but I'm glad that I didn't give up at that time, because my English became better. Even I make mistakes. I'm making mistakes now, of course. I usually say that mistakes are one of the best English teachers, because you can learn from them.
Absolutely. And you remember it because it's personal.
Yeah, I remember one time I was with my English teacher. I was with Tiffani in a class.
Mm-hmm.
She's my client. She's my client, and we talk almost every single day. So one day before of this meeting with students, she told me about one expression, that is the ice on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, yeah, she told me about this. She explained what means. And okay, she thought that I won't forget next day. Next day, she taught the same expression to the students, and she said, Fred knows this expression, and she asked me to explain, and my mind just got blank. I didn't remember anything about it. I remember the expression, but I didn't remember of the meaning, and I freaking out. I got like very awkward, because I can't remember. And after that day, I never forget that expression again, because it was attached to an emotion. I got embarrassed, So all the time I will remember about this embarrassment. So because of the situation, so I never forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. When something is emotionally connected to you, emotionally charged, it makes it a lot easier to remember. But another thing that it reminds me of, when people complain that they're starting to forget what they learned, and they're saying, oh, I stopped making this big progress that I used to feel. First of all, they don't understand that it's easier to go from 1 to 2 than from 2 to 4. When you go from
Got
1 to
it.
2, you only add 1. When you go from 2 to 4, you have to add 2. You have 2 things to do before you can get the same amount of progress, the same doubling effect, and then the same, and then the same, and this, so it gets harder and harder to double. And in the beginning, when you first start learning a language, I couldn't say anything, and now I can. That's it feels so good. Your progress just shot up. You feel like you're on top of the world. You're so smart. And then you meet somebody you can't speak. It's a disaster. It's depression. You go home and cry, and then you go back to Duolingo, and then and
exactly.
And so like that's the first thing that a lot of people don't understand. But then the other thing is like people complain about making mistakes and forgetting things, like they imagine that that's never going to happen, or so. It's an unrealistic expectation. It's like they would be upset if they went to sleep. Like, I have to be awake all day. I can't go to sleep. But when you go to sleep, that's when everything that you learned all day gets saved. That's when the real learning happens, when you're sleeping and compressing the files in your brain, right? And so you have making the mistake and forgetting what you learned. This is just your brain like dealing with the files in your system, and it's like sleeping for your health of your language speaking, right? Something like that.
It's like when you go to the gym, you push yourself so hard, your muscles and everything, but you need to get back to home, sleep, because when you are sleeping, your muscles are increasing, are getting better, because you need to sleep. You need to consolidate that effort you did before, right?
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly the same with forgetting and with mistakes, I think. So that's why I think it's really, like you said in the beginning, mistakes are the best English teacher. And it's really important for people to have that mindset. That's why what holds a lot of people back is that they have the mindset that if I make a mistake, something terrible is going to happen, or I'm going to feel so stupid, or something like this. So that holds people back.
It's like, I can't fail, right? I think in business, this happens pretty often, because people think if I failed, everybody will laugh at me. Everybody will say I'm a loser. But you will fail more than you will to be successful. I am experiencing that all the time in my business. I have fails, but I learn from my fails, and that fails help me to become a better entrepreneur, and don't make the same mistakes again. And then my business is increasing. So yes. I think it's the same in English too.
Yeah, definitely. Learn from failures, learn from mistakes. Absolutely, man. I agree with you.
Good. I saw on your YouTube channel, by the way, if you can talk a little bit about your YouTube channel and how can people find you there?
Oh yeah,
it'd be good.
Yeah, and I think I didn't answer your level up question either, right? So, yeah, our YouTube channel. So we have the English with Kris Amerikos YouTube channel. That's probably what's most relevant to this audience. And so we teach English to students from over 150, over 200 countries, from a lot of places, most countries. It's always exciting when someone from a new place joins us. Like we had someone from Congo, Brazzaville. So both Congos now. We've had people from in our lessons from a lot of places. And what we specialize in is speaking practice. So, it's my feeling that you can learn a lot from YouTube. You can learn a lot from websites. You can Google things. Now you have Chat GPT. You can just ask a question. It can give you the answer.
Amazing.
So, what is the real thing that people need to grow their English? And I thought about that 5, 6, 7 years ago. And the answer that I came up with was speaking practice. So that's our mission, just to have as much speaking practice as possible. So we have a 24/7 room where people can go and practice speaking anytime they want. And then we have scheduled lessons. We have 150 lessons every month right now. And so students come in, join as many of the lessons they want. We have a private chat with the other members, and you can post in there. And yeah, but so you can just go check that out later if that's something that's interesting to you. Sorry, I didn't want to go off on a tangent there.
Oh, no problem, no problem. And I saw one of your programs. I don't know if it is the same that you are talking about. And it was so interesting because I saw the conversations that you schedule in the calendar of lessons are very interesting, because it's not just about learning the language, but it's about, for example, trading topics like artificial intelligence, about Turkey and Syria. I saw that as well, about job and business, traveling, things that we as a student, we need. And I think it's more interesting to have contact with this type of knowledge, because this is the type of things that I will use on a daily basis in real life. So I like that the topics that you talk about, and I can see that's a lot of topics, a lot of meetings you have. You said the number, but I forgot. But it's a lot.
Right now it's about 150 every month, so about 5 every day.
Wow.
But in the past, we had 50 per day.
Per day? That's crazy.
That was the peak. That was the biggest. But we also had 4,000 people there at the same time. So, I mean, not at the same time, not in the lesson, but some of the lessons got very big at that point.
Yeah, and I liked your approach in this program, because it's focused in speaking, it's focused in conversations, it's focusing in improve the speaking skills. Because for me, it was like this. At the beginning of my English learning journey, I decided to focus in speaking. Even my English was broken. I was not speaking very well. I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't know about grammar, but I decided to start from there. I started to start with speaking, and I don't regret, because speaking helped me to improve other aspects of my language, of my English as well. And for example, at the beginning, I didn't focus on grammar, because I know that grammar could, not help me at the beginning. Right now, I need grammar because I work with English. I have clients that I speak in English. I need to write emails. I need to write sales letters and everything in English. So right now I need grammar, but in the past I didn't. So I like this type of approach, because I can say that totally works. So and speaking about that, what do you think about studying grammar? Do you think it's important? Do you think it's not important at the beginning? What do you think about it?
I love grammar. I just personally, I love grammar. It's like the part of the whole process that I love the most. So it's really hard for me to not do anything about grammar. But I think grammar, like can you speak without grammar? The real answer is no, but like how much grammar do you need? I mean, I know people who speak with terrible grammar, with a terrible accent, but they speak and they keep speaking and they keep speaking and they handle situations and they survive. And so like that comes back to your question from the beginning of this episode, where you said, what is fluency? Because a person can have an accent. They can have bad pronunciation. They can have bad grammar and make mistakes and be fluent.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And be fluent. And so, and a lot of people don't get that. They're like, oh, mistake, not fluent. No, mistake means mistake. It doesn't mean not fluent.
Yeah. And when in the English learning journey, do you think it's important to apply grammar? Like in my experience, I didn't apply it at the beginning, but right now, really important. In your case, what do you think about it? When it's the best time to add or start to study grammar in their English learning journey?
Assuming that we're talking about teaching adults, not teaching children, then I think that you need a balance of grammar and, like, let's call grammar, let's not just limit it to grammar. Let's say theory and practice. You need a balance of theory and practice, grammar being a big piece of theory, but there's also other things like pronunciation rules and spelling rules and other things that are theory, as opposed to like practice of how someone does it in real life and the real situation when it happened. So I think you need a balance of that stuff. Like grammar is supposed to formalize what's really happening in the world, but what's happening in the world is the real thing. So it's important to know that. And so I think that from the beginning you can learn grammar, and some people are more grammar focused, but I think that being singularly focused on grammar and no practice, like singularly focused on theory without practice, I think that this usually results with the learner being stuck in their head. This kind of person speaks very slowly and they're not sure about what they're saying. And so the result is that they can't keep up with the conversation because they're always thinking about the rule, how do I formulate it, and that they haven't practiced enough so that reaction happens fast enough. Then on the other side, you have the people who say, I hate grammar. I don't like anything called any theory, any of the theory. I'm just going to ignore that. And I'm just going to go talk to people and figure it out myself. Right. So those people, they have the opposite problem. They usually talk too much, and it's really annoying because they're talking so much that they aren't self-analyzing their speech enough. Mm-hmm. And so like they're not following any of the rules, so they're just talking and it sounds like noise because it either doesn't make sense or they're just repeating the same things over and over again with limited vocabulary. Or so like you have these two separate issues that learners can face, right? Like speaking too much, or like not thinking enough, and thinking too much, not speaking enough. And so
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And that guy, the second guy that you mentioned, it was me at the beginning. I was just talking, and sometimes I noticed I could be a little annoying, and it's not pretty good. So I decided to focus in other aspects of English, because I noticed that it's important, as like grammar, like pronunciation, like my accent and everything. So at the beginning, I was that guy. I was like, okay, let's talk, just talk. And I start to notice like, okay, I'm not doing a great job. I need to improve other aspects of the language if I want to improve my English and if I want to achieve my goals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so it sounds like studying grammar helped you make that transition.
Yeah, totally. And I start to study grammar after a while, because I noticed that it's important. And now I'm using all the time. When you start to write in English, you need to learn grammar. You need to know grammar. You need to master that, because if not, you can have problems. Okay, Kris, we are getting to the end of the interview, but I want to ask another question. If you could give just one advice to English learners that is stuck, mm-hmm. that can change, just one advice that can change their English, or that can change their life, what this advice could be?
One piece of advice.
Yeah.
One piece of advice that can change their life. That's a
hard question.
Hard question. That's serious. Change someone's life. I think it's important Yeah. I think it's important for anyone who's watching this, who's learning any language, to remember that true and false and right and wrong are usually limited to some context. You've got a certain situation or context where you can apply yes and no, true and false, right and wrong. And in other contexts, it can be different. And that's why a phrase that you might learn can have more than one meaning in a different context. And also it can have a different meaning with a different group of people. So try, when you're learning something new in a new language, try to keep your mind open to the possibility that something means more than what you first learned that it means, right? So when you first learn a new word, a lot of people say, this equals this. I know it. Try not to do. Try to do this equals this in some cases, and probably there's more. And now your mind is open to, I wonder what else this thing can mean in which other situation. You try to learn situations more than memorize words, right?
Yeah, the context is so important in this case, because when you learn something in the context, you will know what it is, but just a separate word doesn't mean so much, because a word could mean something, but if you have an expression with that word, could be another thing totally different, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Or
English is
even in a different situation. Even in a different situation too. The same word in a different situation can mean something completely different.
Yeah, in a joke, for example, could be the opposite, or could be sometimes dangerous if you say something. So you need to be careful.
Exactly.
Recently,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. I'm interested what you're going to say.
No, I just will say that recently I saw a video from your YouTube channel speaking about native speakerism, and I want to bring this to the conversation just because I just saw this term a few weeks ago, and now I can see a lot of people talking about it. What it means, native speakerism, and how can this affect our English learning?
Great. This topic, I wanted to discuss this with some people, so hopefully this will produce more conversations about this, and we can continue this conversation with a wider audience. But the basics of native speakerism are, in many places in the world, native speakers are considered some different class of teacher, of user of language, of their language. And so people prefer to learn with native speakers. So it's like this term that's been used a lot in business, and it's been so effective in marketing and business of these language products that people believe this, and like so the masses believe something that's not true. Shock, right? This happens all the time in marketing. We see it all the time, that like people believe this crazy trend, so people are buying all these things. Same story here. So people have really, like in our lifetime, people have really been saying native speakers, you have to have native speakers, right? And for a long time people have been saying this. And the truth is that not only are native speakers not like better in any real way, in many cases I've found native speakers are worse teachers than non-native teachers, because a native teacher could just be a guy off the street that doesn't know anything. And
Yeah.
having gone through that whole process of being that guy in the beginning and then having to push myself to learn that stuff, I know that there's a lot of people who haven't pushed themselves. And so, like there's a lot of great teachers out there. I don't want to say that there's anything wrong with that, but native speakerism is about that. It's about people just saying, "Oh, you're from the UK, so everything you say is right and everything I say is wrong." Right? This is the core argument. That I don't agree with that. I think that in the last 5 years, I've started to see more and more people bring up this topic. I haven't seen a lot of native speakers who will say, not like native speakers are usually worse. Like I really believe that from my experience of having an offline school, an online school, working with native teachers, non-native teachers. We had that system in our school, and yeah, it's just a messed up system. So it's some kind of racism, nationalism,
Yeah.
some kind of some ism like this. So native speaker ism. So that's kind of a very scatterbrained explanation of what it is. But I'm sure you said you already started doing some research. So what's your take on native speakerism?
Yeah. As I mentioned, I just got in touch with this thing a few weeks ago, but I started to see more about it, and I saw a video with the teachers speaking about mistakes from other English teachers from other that are not native. I think you also made a video about it, and I agree with you. I think it's not because a person is from English speaking country that person is better in teaching or better in business or whatever, because it's not about that. I think to be the best is not about that. I have studied with a lot of English teachers, natives, non-natives, and some of the non-natives English teachers are so much better than some of English teachers from the US, from the UK, because it's not about just the language; it's about the capacity to teach, and this is not for everyone. You need to know how can you do that. You need to have the good approach. You need to have a lot of things. And yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a thing that could, it's an important thing that we need to talk more about this, because it's is related to racism, related to other things, not just about the language. And this is, in my opinion, this is sad. I think this doesn't need to happen, because it's not a good thing. So
and racism is a part of native speakerism, because in some of the markets for language products and language services, they decide what a real native speaker is, and based on racial qualities, they might say, well, you might be from the US, but you're not the kind of native speaker that I want. And then they'll go to another person who looks a little different and say, oh, you look like the person who I want, who I believe is a native speaker. So like, and that's why we get all of these crazy situations where it's like, you've got these great teachers from Poland, Ukraine, Russia, in France, Italy, and they have to pretend that they're from the UK or from the US to get a job in some of these markets. And because they are white and because they are foreign, they just say, okay, native teacher, native speaker. And so like, and the system is so ridiculous. Like, why do they have to say that they're a native, and why do they have to pretend to be from another country, when at the end of the day, it's the job performance that's going to determine whether the client stays with the business or not. So like I've analyzed this native speakerism thing a while, and You know, I think I'm pretty clear on how I think it's bad, and how I don't really believe native speakers are better in any real way other than just being able to recall a lot of words automatically. But
Yeah.
the internet can do
And
that.
it,
But I think that there is you know, something else to be said about this, like what we were just speaking about before. um oh man, I've completely lost what I was going to say. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, no, no problem. No problem. No, I would just say that it's curious to see a native English speaker speaking about that, because I already saw other people from other countries speaking about native speakerism. And but when I see somebody that is from the US, for example, speaking about this, and I can say that this is more serious than I thought, and is a thing that we really need to be aware and avoid to, to get in this trap. For
Exactly.
example,
That's what I was going to say before, is about this, exactly this trap. So like, I'm clear about how I feel about it, but in marketing, you say native speaker and people come running. You know what I mean? So like,
I know what you mean.
where's the line? Where is the ethical line? Because I don't believe in native speakerism, and I hire people who are good teachers, and it doesn't matter if they're native or not. And I've switched my promises in my marketing to not say like native, but to try to say more like professional teachers. And however, it's just the reality of our world that if you say native speaker, people know what you're talking about. And it's this term that can attract people. And so where do you draw the line? You know?
And I think this we can connect with your statement, because you don't say about anything about this. You say level up and show the world the best version of yourself. And I think this could connect with that, because we're not thinking about be like a native, or you're saying that they need to level up and show the world that that best version, that you, not someone else, but you as a Brazilian, as a Mexican, as, people from Russia or whatever, but it's you. So you will show your version, your best version to the world. So
exactly. You don't need to pretend to be someone else. You don't need to
exactly.
you don't need to go out there and I have to pretend with my accent that I'm from South London. Why? Like, no, exactly. It's in you. What you already have you inside of you. This is just another tool. That's another thing that's important for people to remember. That language is just a tool or an instrument that helps you get something else. It's not the thing, it's not the end itself. It's not the thing you're trying to get itself. Like that's the mistake a lot of people, I need to get this English thing. I need to get English and chase an English, get English. No, English is a tool that you pick up and you use it to do something, and that's it. And
I think English is not the end of the journey. English like the vehicle to go to the end of your journey, whatever you want to achieve in life. But I think more like this, English, as you mentioned, English is a tool to help you to achieve your dreams.
Yeah. Just like the internet. Would you say like, oh, I'm not going to use the internet because because it's too hard to turn on a computer. And so I'm not going to connect with millions of people around the world from my office at home. And no, I'm not going to do that. No, of course you're going to do it because it's easy and everybody's doing it now. Everybody's there and you have to learn it a little bit to use it. English is kind of the same way. You learn a little bit to get in. Okay, now that you're in the club, everybody's using it. And now you can learn how to use it even better.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Well, Kris, we got to the end of the the interview, I want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the great lessons you taught us today. And it was a pleasure to talk to you. It was a pleasure to meet you. If you want to say something, please go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And, this is a great project that you have here. And I can't wait to see some of the other episodes that you make.
Thank you so much. If somebody else want to find you, what they can find, Instagram, YouTube, what they can find you?
Yeah. So if you want to practice speaking every day, all day, unlimited speaking practice, go to krisamerikos.com. And you can also contact us by sending an email to support@krisamerikos.com. If you want to learn English for your profession or for your job and take your career to the next level, then get in contact with us about our Level Up program. And if you're a teacher who's watching, because a lot of teachers are still learning English, and maybe you feel like your English is good enough, but you just want to get your online business started. So if that's interesting, then you can go over to our teachingrevolution.com website. And maybe some of you who are watching already have taken your online business to the next level, 20,000 a month or more. Then if that's you, go over to our website, lifeafteramillion.com.
I love it. I love it. Well, Kris, thanks again. And guys, if you want to improve your life, follow this guy. I know that's going to happen. So, and the links will be on the description, the links that Kris just said. And don't forget to subscribe in the channel, hit the thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next episode. See you there, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.